Hey guys, what's up? Before we start into this video, I just want to say that it looks like Joe got his internet stuff figured out from his recent move, and it'll likely be a final savecast this Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as usual. And if you guys can be there, it's great. I don't know what we're going to talk about. It'll probably be some more stuff. Like, I'll probably be talking about a lot of the AMD Ryzen stuff. So, yeah, anyways, see you guys there. So hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to do a introduction to streaming. Okay, now I've seen lots of videos showing how to use OBS and how to use XSplit, but people tend to do, in my opinion, pretty bad explanations of that because there's a whole other slew of things that you need to know before you even get into the OBS XSplit part of it. It's like, it's a good starting point. It kind of shows people a little bit of what's going on, but we're going to do a full comprehensive kind of set of videos to show you guys how to stream and what to look for when you have problems and stuff like that. So today is just going to be an explanation of what's going on with your PC when you're streaming and some of the equipment you might want to look into, what you need, and some recommendations I'm going to make before we even get into the OBS stuff. So if you feel like you have a good handle on all this, go ahead and skip to the next video when it comes out or something like that. So first of all, we're going to talk about what's actually going on with your machine. Okay, first things first, I'm going to make some CPU recommendations. If you're something on like FX 8350, 8320 even, anything in the 8300 8-core FX series, you're probably fine for at least 72030, okay? Now when it comes to Intel processors, pretty much any Intel processor from, I would say, from Ivy Bridge all the way up to the current Kaby Lake. And I would not recommend anything less than an i5. And if you really want to get good quality, an i7. It's going to come down to is the more CPU you can throw at it. If you have a ton of money and you want to get something like X99 where you can get like a 6-core, 8-core, 10-core if you need to, those definitely help in the video quality. However, the first thing I will tell any new streamer is I see a lot of people start streaming and then they just kind of fade out. That happens to me from time to time too because of personal reasons in life and stuff. And I will tell you that being consistent on a schedule is the only way you're going to grow. On top of the content you're putting out there is actually compelling to watch, okay? So I would say on whatever processor you have, even if it's just a low quality, you know, like 480 stream at 30 frames or something like that, or even 24 just to get it out, like whatever processor you have. I would recommend at least doing that for the month. See if you can get in a cadence, see if you can get into the schedule of things. And, you know, it's also a good learning experience. A lot of people start streaming and find out it's just something they don't want to put up with because when it comes to streaming, we're still pretty much in the dark ages here when it comes to the technology, and there's a lot of frustrating things that can happen, and hopefully we'll cover a lot of that today. But yeah, that would be my first recommendation. Get a feel for it. Try to stream for whatever machine you have. If you already have like an i5, i7, just try to do like a 480 stream to start out with, and then see if you can do like 720/30 or something like that. And it depends on the game that you're doing too. So let's get into CPU usage. Okay, now when it comes to if you're just streaming from a console, okay, and you got an Elgato capture card or something like that, you're probably going to be fine to do at least a good 720/30 stream, if not even 1080, depending on your processor. Seeing that your CPU is pretty much only handling the encoding and maybe like the chat in the incoming video for the thing and for your stream and whatnot. So that's one thing to consider there. But if you're playing a game, your game's going to use up a certain amount of CPU. And so let's say it's like I'm on an i7, for instance. I play something like GTA. It's going to use 50, 60% of even an i7 at times. So I want to look at what the peak it's going to reach, not what its average is. And I want to figure out how much overhead I have. And then within that overhead, programs like OBS, like OBS right now is telling me I'm using 17.5% of the CPU just recording this video right now at 1080 at 3500. That is information I can use and kind of figure out the math in my head. Okay, can I stream that out on top of the game? In this case, yes, I actually could. And I typically want to leave at least 5, if not 10% of the CPU. So I don't want to go past that 90% CPU usage to oversaturate, because if it ever touches 100 by any chance, whether it's because of Chrome or some other process or something going on in the machine, that's going to cause your stream to stutter. You're going to drop frames and stuff. So how can you tell that? Well, I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so we're here on one of my screens, and we're going to right click on the Windows button here, and we're going to go Task Manager. Now, I'm sorry if you're in Linux, but you do have a Task Manager too, so you might want to look at how to do that. But if you're on Linux, you probably already know. So here's my current processor right now. Now you can see I have it split up in, typically when you first bring it up, it'll be like this overall utilization. If you right click and go to logical processors, this will help figure out what's going on with your machine. So my current processor is an i7-4790K. Okay, as you can see, even though in the i7 is a quad core, it has what's called hyper-threading. So in a way, it's kind of faking 8 cores, as you can see here on the utilization right now. Now, what we're looking at right now is the actual utilization that I'm taking up off of just recording this video right now, capturing the desktop. As you can see, it's not even clocking up. I've got a overclock of about 4.6 gigahertz on this thing. But when we're typically playing a game, this will usually clock up unless it's like a small game, say Broforce or something that's not very heavy, right? So if I'm using a game like GTA, for instance, and I'll probably like take a video of GTA of this and kind of show the utilization, so we'll just kind of cut into that or something. You can see here that this will be much higher. It'll be like 50-60% with the clock all the way up. So that's telling me what I want to look at is not these averages. I want to look at what the peaks are. Okay, so like there's a peak, I want to see what it's actually using, and then I kind of want to figure out. Sometimes you can kind of let those overlap a little bit, but not by very much. Hyper-threading helps out with that. CPU stepping in Windows helps out with balancing that load out a little bit. But at the end of the day, you want to keep this under 90% when you're streaming is what I would recommend. 95 if you're pushing it. Okay, so to figure out what you need, first of all, the thing I will tell you is when you're playing your game by itself without OBS open and you're just looking at Task Manager, you get a baseline of what you need to use, okay? What you need to understand is if you're just sitting still in the environment and you're not doing anything and you're staring at that, it's not going to move a whole lot. It's like you could see it as like, 20-30% because it's essentially just keeping what it needs in the active world to go. It's not doing a whole lot. So say like in GTA, what you want to do is you want to move around, you want to drive, you want to shoot, you want to cause explosions, to cause the physics stuff to go off. And this is going to cause things like the textures to stream in, physics go on, different AIs to load in and stuff like that onto the CPU. And this will give you an accurate read of what your top overhead is going to be, okay? Then you start up something like OBS. And on OBS here, you can see like right now I'm streaming, it's showing 9.3%, 10%. I've seen it jump up to 13 and so. And that will be added to your overall usage over here. And you don't even have to like even stream. You can just do like a recording like I'm doing now. And you can say set up like a different resolution like 480, 720, 1080, and add bit rates to it. And a lot of these sites, you can go to them and they'll actually tell you for like their ingestion servers what they recommend for different bit rates that they recommend for different resolutions and whatnot. And anytime you add resolution, bit rate, or even frame rate, that's going to add to it. And the thing to keep in mind is, once again, if you're just sitting still and you're just, even with OBS open, say you're recording 720p 30, and you're sitting still in GTA, you're not going to push either one of these. Motion affects both in game. It affects the game because it's going to be streaming in textures and streaming in those AIs and hitting up the CPU for those new resources and whatnot. And also the capture or process the video coming in off the frame buffer, the CPU, when it's in motion, it's working the hardest there. So that's going to hit OBS the hardest, and that's going to give you your top line there. Okay, so to show you guys the differences between bitrate at resolution, what we're doing is this is 720p 30 frames at 1000 kilobits per second. We're going to go through Rocket League because I'm using it because of the fast camera angles and fast motion of the game, and it's a pretty good example showing you guys what bitrate does to a video when you keep the resolution the same. And then after this, we'll hop it up to 60 frames at similar bit rates and show you guys what it does for that there. Okay, so here, as you can see at 1000, it's grainy, especially during high motion and whatnot. And so this is not something I'd really use this bitrate for, although the trade-off is my CPU usage is much lower. I'd probably recommend turning down the resolution if this is the bitrate you need to stream at, so you have like a really low upload speed from your internet service provider or something. So for this, I'd probably do something like a 480 instead of a 720. Okay, so here we are at a bitrate of 2000, and you can immediately tell that it's a little bit clearer quality. This is probably the minimum I would push for like a slow moving, or say like you're playing something retro like Mario or something like that, and you want to keep a good sharp looking image, but you can't really push it out because of your network or your CPU or something. This is a good area to kind of start with stuff like that. So you're playing something like Hyper Light Drifter, something 2D. I would definitely use this bitrate, but for something like Rocket League, as you can see, it's still a little bit too grainy because of all the high speed motion and whatnot, and the CPU is still having a hard time clearing up that image. Okay, so here we have 720/30 at a bitrate of 3000. This is typically, if you want a really clean 720/30, this is what I would recommend to people. Now I know what you're saying is you're probably watching this on YouTube and you're like, it still looks pretty grainy. It does. If you have the means, like you're on a computer right now, click off of full screen and see how it looks, because most people engaging on Twitch or YouTube or something like that are going to have the chat open on the side, which means they're going to be in a small preview window, and it's typically around 720 on most 1080 displays. Okay, so we're at a bitrate of 6500 right now, and what I will tell you is, although it's starting to get close to what I would use for recording here at this resolution, but what I will tell you is I wouldn't stream at this. I'd try to keep my bitrate still rather low, because there's still a lot of people out there with not really good internet in this country and other countries too, and you're still kind of limiting your audience by doing that. So general rule, I would not recommend anything over 3500. Okay, so we're at 720/60 right now, and we're at a bitrate of 1000 kilobits per second. And as you can see, it looks really bad. This is an example of your bitrate being way too low for the resolution and the frame rate that you're doing. So this shows you how low frame rate is. You can't just set the resolution and the frame rate and think it's going to be pretty. You have to take into factor what kind of bitrate you're pushing out. Okay, so you guys are getting the basic idea. So this is at 2000 kilobits per second, and we're just going to ramp up. We're going to go 3500, which I normally stream at this bitrate, and then we're just going to go balls to the wall 6500 and 10,000, so you guys get the idea. Okay, here we are finally at 720/60, and this is the last comparison I'm going to show for this video. It's 10,000 kilobits per second, so this is really high. I would not stream at this. This is more like what I would record at. And hopefully after YouTube does its weird video compression stuff and all that, clarity's still coming out to you guys fairly well. But the point I want to make here is hopefully you guys have learned that it's just not resolution, it's resolution, frame rate, bit rate helps out a lot in clearing up the image. There's a few other tricks we can do here. We'll do that in a more advanced thing when we get to like OBS game show. But hopefully this gives you guys a basic understanding what you're doing here, how to balance your CPU when you're setting up your streams and whatnot. And yeah, so let's go ahead and finish up this video. Alright, so that was the end of this part, kind of explaining video bit rates and all that fun stuff on what your machine's actually doing. I'll upload a second part with that tonight that's supposed to be like recommendations for like different equipment to get used just starting or whatnot. And then we'll do like a separate video for OBS and game show setup and kind of explain like the different services. I'll have to do a video on that, like explain how their ingest servers and all that stuff work, because it's all very complicated and we're all in the dark ages of this, ladies and gentlemen. So there's a lot to know and understand to get the best video quality and service out to your viewers and whatnot like that. So with that being said, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, and hopefully you guys, this multi-part thing will make it easier on you guys. It's almost like sitting down taking a class for a day or something like that is what I'm hoping. So anyways, I will see you guys in the next video later.